Hello, welcome to Seattle University School of Law's webinar series. This week we'll be speaking about Corporate Compliance and Ethics Week. It is a national event this week if you think about all the things going on in in the United States, it's a perfect time for compliance and ethics to be discussed. And we will be emphasizing compliance with a conscience that happens to be the motto for our Master in Legal Studies program. And we will be welcoming guests today, and I thank you all for attending. I am Linda Hiemer, a Senior Director of Graduate Law Programs for Seattle University School of Law. If at any time you want to speak to me privately about this program or your career goals, you can call me at 206-398-4268, or you can email me at lawgraduateonline@seattleu.edu. If I do not answer your call, the voice message will be sent to my email and I will get back to you as soon as practical. I look forward to hearing from each and every one of you. But today we have a real exciting agenda. I am thrilled that we have guests from the Seattle community, Swedish Medical Services and Swedish Hospital. Actually, one of their hospitals and campuses is located adjacent to Seattle University. So we hold the relationship strongly, and we are excited about their willingness to join us today. So our guests will be speaking really about specific areas on our roadmap, our pathways to a compliance or risk management career, top traits, both hard and soft skills, we like to say, for compliance professionals. We'll briefly discuss the roles and responsibilities primarily of our guests to give you a sample of a day in the life for these careers. Then we'll talk a little bit about Compliance and Ethics Week, what's going on and what it means. And then I hope that our guests will provide some professional tips and insights for you if you are currently in this career or exploring any career in compliance and risk or professional development in those areas, whether it's in healthcare or any other industry that is regulated. Then briefly, we'll discuss some next steps regarding our program and have a Q&A. If at any time you have a question, please submit it via chat or through the question. I will try to have those responded to during our webinar and discussion, but if not, we'll try to answer them at the end of this discussion. So let's get started. I'd be happy to give Jennifer the floor to introduce herself.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for spending a few minutes chatting with us. My name is Jennifer McAleer. I'm the Chief Compliance and Privacy Officer for Swedish. My background is that I've been doing healthcare compliance for over 20 years now. I was doing healthcare compliance before most people had ever heard of the term, or most companies had a spot for me. I started off in small entities, community-based nonprofits who had health or residential programs, and have kind of transitioned now into hospital-based compliance programs. I have an MBA and a master's in public policy and management, and I have a handful of compliance-related certifications that make sure that my skills are up to date and that I haven't forgotten more than I've learned in my 20 years. That's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you for joining us today. And Alana.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Alana Croker, and I'm the Compliance and Privacy Manager at Swedish. I've been with Swedish for about 2.5 years, and in my current role for a little over 6 months. I got my JD from Loyola University Chicago, where I completed a health law certificate with an emphasis in healthcare compliance. I sat for the California bar exam and then very briefly worked for Jen at a children's hospital in Los Angeles before coming up here to Seattle. I kind of fell into compliance. I didn't really know what it was when I entered law school. I went to law school because it was a natural step after college. I majored in political science and I thought law school is where I should go. And then I attended an informational session about compliance, and it seemed like that would be the right path for me. So I started taking courses in compliance, and I completed several internships in compliance that ultimately led me here to where I'm at today.
Thank you. And that leads us right into, you started that perfect segue to really talking about the pathways, both what led you into those careers and your education or other professional development. And you really both introduced us to that. And you briefly talked about that. So what's interesting is, Jen, you came from an MBA and a Master in Public Policy, whereas Alana, you pursued the traditional law school route. And if you could talk a little bit about, if you're based on your experience, the importance of having some type of education or degree in this arena.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We have in our department a pretty good mix between people who have a formal education in the compliance field, or people who have learned compliance through experience. And I think both sides bring really valuable skills to the table. Um, when you learn in the academic discipline, I think you approach problems a little bit differently. I think how I approach certain investigations may be a little bit different than maybe a colleague who learned through experience. But the diverse backgrounds, I think, is really helpful for our department. But with the education background, I think it really helps to interpret regulations. I find is where it was the most beneficial. But then Jen comes with her business background and has gained experience in compliance. So I think we complement each other.
Perfect. Jen, any insight with your master's programs, as well as any gaps in knowledge that you saw from a legal perspective?
Yeah, that's interesting. And, to be honest, I probably spent the first half of my career planning on going to law school for a variety of personal reasons. I just never ended up going, and instead got the 2 master's degrees. And until the last few years, I really had this notion that I really needed to do that to further my career. Now I'm at a place where I don't really feel that that's necessary for me to continue my compliance path. I really love Swedish. I love what I'm doing, and I'm not feeling the need for additional growth at this point. Um, that being said, I do, I do hire attorneys. I hired Alana twice now, and I think that they bring value. But with value, they also there also are some limitations, right? Because you have attorneys who are classically trained to represent their client, and their role in a compliance function is a little bit different, and so finding attorneys who can kind of separate themselves from what they were classically trained and really focus on the skills that they were trained in. Like Alana mentioned, legal research is a key skill that those people can come in with, I think is critical. And so I generally try to find a balance between JD and non-JD. I love to have people who have clinical or business backgrounds, as well as people who have maybe a little bit of a background like mine, where I've grown up in the compliance field, but have formalized my knowledge base with certifications.
That's excellent insight, and that's one of the reasons that Seattle University School of Law devised a master's level program. We realized that a lot of people aren't necessarily interested in actively practicing law, but they want to be able to have a legal studies or law studies background to enhance their knowledge base. So oftentimes I talk to prospective students who say the same thing. Always thought about going to law school. It just never happened for me. Or they're trying to decide if they should get an MBA or a master's in public health or something. And they're drawn to this program for that marriage of a business and strategic side and seeing risk and compliance, having the law piece and being able to solve or frame issues and solve problems through the lens of the law, while still not being that advocate, practitioner, model side. And that's why we came up with this specific unique program.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Some of the main skills really are just an ability to think critically and to read and interpret regulations and apply them across diverse scenarios. And certainly a law school program teaches directly to it, but it's not the only pathway to gaining those skills.
And that's an excellent point. And as both of you show through your certifications, that any leadership role like this one requires professional development and lifelong learning.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of that, as we transition from just that hard education model and how your paths, and I like the way Alana says, I fell into it. An interesting tidbit is, I believe, 3 of our current students in the Master of Legal Studies program have earned their Juris Doctorates, their JDs. So they attended law school and they realized they wanted to move into a compliance role. And when I spoke with them and advised them on and to determine if this program was right for them, they said, yeah, we see a roadblock in our career advancement because a lot of corporations say we don't need a general counsel, or, oh, all you lawyers think about in risk is litigation and liability. So 3 students already earned their law degree, have now come back to earn this Master in Legal Studies in order to pursue careers or advance in compliance and regulatory roles. So they also saw, it's not a JD may open doors and create knowledge, but it may not be the right door at the right time for these expanding and growing roles. So I think, Alana, you pointed out that, and of course, Jen, you see that you both agree that there's complementary skills to have people at the table through various educational and experience backgrounds to add value to Swedish or to any organization. So with that in mind, would you like to share some of the top traits that you think are critical, both knowledge, skills, and then values or philosophy?
Sure, I'd be happy to start. I think for the kind of compliance program that I work on building, I really like to focus on soft skills. I think hard skills are generally things that can be relatively easily trained if you have the right person. And so I'm looking for people who are culturally competent. This is actually a growing need in our department as we're seeing more and more investigations regarding allegations of discrimination. So cultural competency is now a big focus, and attention to customer service, making sure that we're setting the right tone for the kind of program that I want Swedish to have is critical. And so, we're not looking for people who are on a power trip. We're looking for people who generally view the role of compliance as a support for our caregivers. And so approaching them as our customers and working to provide them good customer service is critical. And so I'm always looking for people who can represent me in that way and be a friendly face who isn't intimidating just by the look of them, and instead can really collaborate in a way to help reach compliance. And I would say the most important thing, and this is something I've learned over my career, and it is a learned thing and not something that is innate in me, is being flexible and seeing the gray areas in things. As a young compliance professional, I was much more black and white, and you're either compliant with the law or you're not. And there was never any opportunity for gray in there. And as I have grown in my career and in my experience, I do think that being flexible is critical to having a long-term career in compliance. If you come into a room full of operators and tell them that there's only one path that you'll accept to be compliant, but that path isn't conducive to how they need to operate to be efficient and effective, you're not going to have great partnerships with, the operations side of the house. And so I'm happy to say that compliance has a great relationship with our operational folks at Swedish, but part of that is being flexible and being open to alternative approaches, which maybe isn't ideal from a strictly compliance perspective, but it's better to be a little bit compliant than not compliant at all. And so, I think that that's something that we're working on a team to make sure that that we're all working on those skills of being flexible and being able to see that gray and understanding that it doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to be better. So those are my thoughts on skills and how I think soft skills are critical in this world.
Yes, and so I jotted down a few skills. First one, this was always my least favorite topic, but public speaking is something that I had always tried to avoid in school and in jobs, but it's just pretty unavoidable in a compliance career. You're doing a lot of training, a lot of presenting to different stakeholders, whether it be executive teams, physicians, caregivers, lots of different kinds of audiences. We hold different committees. So there's really no avoiding public speaking. So if you have opportunities to practice those skills now, I would highly encourage it. I did not take opportunities to practice my public speaking skills. So I got to practice on the job while training at new employee orientation, but you kind of get over it. And now it's something that is just part of the job. And while it's not my favorite, I don't mind it. But it is a big part of our daily jobs. Another one I wrote down was having a backbone with finesse. So we try to be approachable and very friendly to all of our caregivers. Like Jen was saying, provide good customer service to all of our Swedish employees. However, we do often have to have a backbone or we're met with pushback. And so it's kind of finding that balance between being very approachable, but also not sliding on things that we need to be that we have to be firm on. And so knowing where we're standing, we have to be sure to always have a backbone in certain situations. So I'm thinking, for example, sometimes when we interview certain caregivers, they might try to challenge you or push back on certain evidence you're presenting. And so it can be hard at times, but it is a skill to try to hone in on.
That's extremely helpful. I love the term backbone with finesse. I'm so going to use that. And you're right. The skills that you've discussed, again, part of this is helping people understand the program at Seattle U. Is our program outcomes is at the end of this program, we say that students will be able to perform critical non-attorney roles ethically and with cultural competency. And another outcome is to emphasize the role of written and verbal communication skills and analytic skills for legal research and writing. Our capstone at the end of the program has an oral defense. We also, as you said, having that backbone in investigations, we have courses in organizational investigations and evidence, as well as auditing and risk management. So we try to give those knowledge and foundations to have the background, the backbone with finesse that is required to succeed either at an entry level or in the C-suite in this kind of role. So thank you so much for your insights on that. And again, the values that are espoused are especially critical in healthcare. So I appreciate that insight. And as far as, could you talk a little bit about, I know you gave your title, but what that looks like, and you also talked about how you collaborate with different stakeholders and mission partners. But if you'd like to share briefly your roles and responsibilities, that might be helpful. And we could start with Jen.
Sure, I'm happy to. You know, this has been a developing area for the 3 years I've been at Swedish. And so for the first year or so, I was really working on just developing the infrastructure and hiring the team. Now that we've kind of filled out the team and Alana is in her role, the day-to-day operations that she'll be able to talk about are really left to her and to the staff. And I'm spending a lot more of my time these days working with the executives and the board regarding the culture of compliance that we're really committed to, and that tone at the top that everybody talks about, making sure that we have the support that we need, that the executives are visible in our compliance program, that we have formal collaborations with other areas of the organization and making sure they understand what their role is in the compliance program. And then, you know, of course, working to support the team for anything that bubbles up or any new areas that we haven't experienced before, and kind of being the ultimate decision maker regarding the program and what we need to be doing. So that's my day to day. I spend a lot of time in meetings, keeping informed of current events within the organization and providing compliance input, and then bringing that information back to the team, who then is responsible for really doing whatever is required to help the organization be compliant in that area. So Alana has, I think, a lot of the fun work of overseeing the day-to-day.
Yes. So my team, we do, like Jen was saying, a lot of the day-to-day work. So we manage the hotline and then investigate any complaints that come in through our hotline or through our department email or our phone or through word of mouth. Our investigations cover a ton of different topics, including privacy, HIPAA, EMTALA cases, START, conflicts of interest. We do have an ADA coordinator who investigates Section 1557 from the ACA and other civil rights cases as they pertain to patients. The investigations are generally allegations of misconduct by our caregivers, our physicians, management, and can include executive leadership at times as well. Our team provides guidance to employees on policies or any other questions they have. We often will get some kind of off the wall questions into our email box, so those are kind of fun. We also draft and interpret policies. We've been focusing quite a bit on communication, so raising awareness of our program, reaching our caregivers, providing them relevant information that is easy to read and understand, rather than just regurgitating policies or regulations. We do quite a bit of training. We used to do it in person. Now we are working on transitioning that to a virtual format. And then we do also do some auditing as well. And so that keeps us pretty busy day to day. A lot of our work follows pretty closely the elements of a compliance program as they apply at Swedish. And that is, for the most part, what we do each day.
Thank you. And I'm sure you're both extremely busy at all times, but I'd love to know, everyone has any job you do. There's always the tasks you love and there's the tasks that you have to perform, but you don't necessarily enjoy. So could you share could each of you tell me, like, what makes you get up in the morning and want to go to work? What's your favorite part of your role? Jen?
Sure. Favorite part would be the justice that I can help ensure gets done, making sure that, caregivers and patients get what they deserve, whatever that is. Equal care or discipline if they're breaking the rules, those types of things. And so I love being part of the cycle of justice that we have at Swedish, which, by the way, is one of our core values as an organization as well. So that's my favorite part of my job.
I love it. You see, are you sure you still don't want to go to law school? No.
Right.
All right. Alana.
Yeah, so my favorite part is probably the variation every day, kind of not knowing what's going to come each day. I think it keeps it exciting. If I had to choose one specific task, it would be probably the investigation aspects. When we get an exciting allegation that comes in, I kind of like to nerd out on the investigation part of it. Doing research and digging up evidence. That's probably my favorite part.
There's another I'm going to take away. Nerd out on the investigation part. But again, the joy of finding facts, being a fact finder and evidentiary, to come to a positive outcome for all parties, at least a just one. And I can appreciate having practiced law, that oftentimes people have a sense of what they think justice is, but using policies and procedures in the law to come to a resolution is extremely rewarding, and make sure everyone is heard and respected. So I love that you bring that to the role, and I love that that's a core value and part of the mission of Swedish also, because it resonates with us with Seattle University. So here comes the segue again. Beautiful, beautiful view of our shared city. I know how much I value Swedish. I reside in Seattle on First Hill and work on First Hill and on the campus. So I know the importance and the support that Swedish brings to the broader Seattle and greater Seattle area community. So with that in mind, I know this week is National Compliance and Ethics Week, and as I mentioned in my opening, that the motto for this program is compliance with conscience. And I think everything you've been talking about also is an example of that being lived in your roles, in your personal and professional lives, and that's Swedish. So if you want to talk a little bit about what Compliance and Ethics Week has looked like for you, and in that compliance with conscience perspective.
Yeah, I can start real quick. This year, of course, is a little different in the world of COVID, but the goal each year is really to spread awareness across Swedish about what we're here to do, how we can support our caregivers and our physicians, and really just make sure that they understand, that we have a compliance program and what their role is in it. I really pride myself and our team on making sure that they understand that we're friendly, approachable people, that we're not intimidating. They're not going to get in trouble for bringing issues forward. And so if we are able to, do that to a few more caregivers each year, I feel like Compliance Week has been a win. But Alana really handles the fun of the Compliance Week activities, so she can talk a little bit more about what makes it a fun week every year.
Yes, I love Compliance Week. Typically, in years past, we'll spend the whole week going out to each one of our hospitals. We have 5 hospitals, so we visit each one throughout the week. And then we'll also select a few of our clinics to go visit. And we set up some games to go play in person. We bring some swag, some Swedish branded swag, and we always bring food. That seems to be the big draw for people. And we do a lot of prep work as far as communications go. We try to choose a theme each year and drum up some excitement around the theme. and try to get people excited to come out and participate in Compliance Week with us. This year we transitioned to a virtual event. So instead of going to each of the campuses, we had campus leadership film these fun little scenarios where they are featured doing a few non-compliant acts, very obviously non-compliant, and pretty humorous. And so we filmed those, and we've been sending them out each day of the week. And there is an activity that goes out with each video. So our caregivers watch the video, and then they complete the activity. And then everyone who participates will get a swag bag in the mail next week. So we've been getting a lot of participation. So I think people are enjoying it and still getting the same message out of it as they would if we were in person.
It sounds like fun. Sorry, I missed the swag bag, but I think what is good is and you, I think it resonates both with Jen remembering early in careers of compliance that it was about checking boxes, or black and white. Both of you talk about there's gray areas, but complying, doing the right thing for the right reasons is, and people enjoying it and being excited about complying. That's a culture, and that's a cultural shift for many areas. But I think it's a positive one, and it's something we're trying to engender too in any degree program, in any professional role. Compliance, internal and external, for the right reasons. Not just because you're checking a box as you're moving things through a pipeline. And that's wonderful. So congratulations. I hope you've had a positive compliance week. So as we transition and get ready to culminate this conversation, I was wondering if you had any other insights or tips you wanted to share with people in attendance now or who may be listening to this archived recording.
Sure, this is Jen. One idea I have is really just to get involved in the different organizations out there. For Swedish, all of our compliance employees are members of the HCCA, and that is a great organization. It has a lot of resources, it has a lot of networking opportunities, and we're not only members, we attend, in non-COVID times, we attend conferences, we purchase a lot of their resource and reference materials. And I think that that's a great way of getting up-to-date information and staying up to date. Finding whatever industry compliance organization there is and getting information from them, I think is a great plan for sticking in a career in compliance.
Thank you.
I have a few tips. The first one is to, first and foremost, learn the business that you're supporting. So you might be the smartest compliance professional in the world, but if you don't understand the operations side, you're not going to be effective. So it's really important to understand the day-to-day workflow of the people who will have to be implementing your policies in order to get their buy-in. Second tip, kind of along the lines of Jen's HCCA tip, is just about networking. You don't be afraid to email local compliance officers from hospitals near you. We like to talk about ourselves, and we're always more than happy to set aside time for someone interested in the field. And compliance is a pretty small profession, so you really want to get to know other people in the profession. It can be easy to be siloed in your own organization. So it's really good to make those connections outside of your organization. It really comes in handy when Maybe you come up against a tough problem at your organization and you want to bounce ideas off of somebody else. I find people in this industry are always really willing to share best practices.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Of course, my insight would be apply to our program. I mean, not just shameless, but again, we are proud of what we're building. We're proud of our reputation again in Seattle and nationally. And we're excited about this kind of program responding to the needs of the industry, but also the needs of prospective students. It's designed as a part-time, fully online program. And it's offered over 3 terms per year for a 2-year. So a total of 30 credits. And again, we try to keep the program and course outcomes timely and relevant and rigorous. And we attract a myriad of students that have come from healthcare industries. We have people who are in the maritime industry, the wine making industry. So people are attracted, and it allows for a complementary cohort of students that are really engaged. And like Alana just said, the students often are able to bring what they're learning in the classroom and learning from not just from the professors, but other students about similar issues they face in their work, but novel approaches from different industries. Someone in a credit union was surprised to learn how a maritime policy was implemented. So again, I think it's so cool how all of our students say they are learning so much and they're taking what they're learning back to their current jobs. So that's exciting too. Unlike a lawyer, you go to law school, you wait 3 years, you take a bar exam, then you use those skills. But this is immediately transferable and relevant. So it's exciting. And again, knowing that every day, Alana, what I love, like you said, and I loved it about practicing law, you never knew what was going to happen that day. Everything was new, but you had to have the agility, the knowledge, the skills, and the values to tackle those problems and challenges as they came. So I hope that people who are attending this call today would not hesitate to contact me and talk about it, or also reach out if you are in current careers or thinking about this career. Explore the societies, maybe in your current role. Speak to people who might be the leaders in your compliance or risk divisions to talk about career options, advancement, and professional development. If you are interested in our program, we do have a start January 11th, and our deadline to apply is November 30th. So now this is again my contact screen. You can call me or email me at any time. And I will open the floor to any questions that attendees might have for our panelists or for me. I don't see any open questions, but I do have a chat coming in. Elizabeth is interested in the fall 2021 start. That deadline to apply is mid-May. I believe we set it for May 15, 2021. Thank you, Elizabeth. I'll just momentarily wait to see if there's any typing. And while we're waiting, again, I wanted to personally thank Jennifer and Alana, a busy schedule. Again, thank you for taking the time to attend and to share your insights. And again, thank you for all you do for the Seattle community, and especially your relationship with Seattle University. And again, some of our attendees, Marguerite and thank you both for your insights and tips. And
of course, we're happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Any other closing remarks, Jen or Alana?
No, you're welcome to reach out if you have any questions specific to, compliance in a hospital setting. I'm happy to talk more about that or give you any ideas that I have. So feel free to reach out.
And that'd be wonderful. If anyone does want to reach out to our panelists, I'd be happy to field some of those questions and share them with them. So again, thank you everyone for attendance. I wish you all continued health and wellness. And on
Thank
that,
you.
we will be
Thank you,
ending
too.
this. Thank you, everyone. Take care.